So,
Do it.
so then what?
So you can use that 2-part epoxy, and you can take your door panels off, and you can pour that into your door panels, and then put your let it kind of set up a little bit semi-hard. Put your door panel back in place in your car, and then that way you won't have any panel resonance at all in your door panel, dude. It's no joke.
US.
I can't remember if that's
it's
uscomposites.com. I can't remember if
US
that's
Composites.
they make different weights basically, and I can't remember all of them. It may be like 1 pound to maybe 16-pound density, right? Okay. And the 16-pound density is, I'm telling you, dude, I mean, I took a hammer to it to try to break it apart and couldn't do it. Right? Because I put it inside my car, my kick panels, and it was just, dude, it was like, I don't know, man. It was way stronger than anything else I've ever built. Yeah.
Hey,
but
Michael,
beast mode.
Look at it. Isn't that a cool view? Like you got the roof.
I was thinking he could just. I was just thinking he should like put it on autopilot and just look at us instead of looking at the road. I mean,
I know. What are you driving for?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No.
All right, I'm on it.
Totally kidding, bro.
Autopilot.
Hey, how come this is like a better view than your normal background even? Like this, you got a moving background and everything.
That's legit, man. It does look nice.
Does your background move? Mine doesn't.
Nice.
Mine's the same old background.
I should do that. I should just drive around and record this one day, like with the sun setting behind me.
Yeah.
Hey,
and then
new
make
videos,
that a rolling background.
Then green screen.
New video style.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just like like how they did carpool karaoke, all that.
There you go.
Just do a review from the car, bro.
You need to have like
thing.
You need to have like Floyd Toole in the back seat, like just interviewing him. Wouldn't that be dope?
That would be pretty sick.
That would be a cool interview.
Yeah. I don't know what he would sing though.
But you know, he doesn't have to sing. He asking questions, man. Pick his brain.
He could be giving a seminar from the back seat.
There you go.
I'd be in the front seat, be like, oh, what's that guy doing?
Oh man,
I love it, man. It looks rad.
That looks awesome. Yeah, so we just went right into it. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna hit live. Forget the intro.
Well.
You guys know who we are, right?
Who needs an intro?
They know who we are. Well,
I know who we are.
I know who you guys are too. I see you guys in the chat. Tim Perry,
I can't see him
course,
because I'm driving.
Randall, Everyday Jay, my wife. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Angela.
Hi, kids, if you're watching.
Hi, kids, if you're watching.
Yeah, so we don't have to censor. Chana's not here today. He's sleeping, so.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
For him to be sleeping.
Yeah, finally. I think he hasn't slept in like maybe a week or so.
That's probably about right. Dude's a workaholic.
Yep. Getting a lot of high Aaron.
You need a portable clip for the car.
Aaron, that sun off your cranium.
Yeah, some people actually tint this thing, but I read and I watched some videos where there's concern that if you tint it, it can actually cause the roof to crack. Not the roof, but the glass to crack. So Tesla won't warranty it if you put tint on it.
Yeah.
And it cracks. Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, that's not good.
So
is it like when the sun's blazing though, does it reflect that?
It hasn't bothered me so far. Okay. Yeah, I mean it's just dark, man. This tint's really dark. Just to give you an idea, I'm gonna spin it back around and look at the actual road, okay? And then so there you go.
Kind of hard to tell because it's doing auto exposure.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would say this tint on the roof is at least 20, if not like close to 10. Okay. It's dark. Yeah.
Can I see your roads? Have you guys ever seen that game that people play where like it shows them something on Google Maps for a second and you have to guess where they're at?
Well, I mean, people can guess where I'm at because you can see my screen. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Do that.
Oh, okay. Our streets don't look like that. See,
that's what
your streets look like that?
Plant City looks similar to that. Yeah.
No, those are so spaced out. Like, look at the houses are all far apart.
Yeah, but that's Plant City too.
Oh, yours too.
This is how you know you're in the South. There's a church.
Yeah.
And then in about like 2 seconds, I'm going to pass another one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dude, I don't know why I take it personally. Like I'm mad. It has nothing to do with being a religious person. I'm just fed up with all the churches that they're building around here because in some areas, not in this particular area, but in some areas, they're running out of land for homes, right?
Yeah.
But they'll build like mega churches that take up 20-something acres. And I've been to plenty of churches in the area that have hardly anybody there. Yeah. And I'm like, why don't you just freaking tell your people to go to another church, right? Split it up. You don't need that large of a congregation. You just don't. So stop it.
That's anyway. like if you look around, like if you show where you're at there,
Look.
that's why they can do that CEA 2010 subwoofer measurement. Look at all that lead, look at all that green. We don't have that green.
Look, trailers, y'all.
Trailers.
That's the way we got
another church. I wasn't kidding.
Hey, it could be God saying you need to pull over. You just never know, man.
Well, he's probably right.
He might be just going, hey, here's one here. Here's another. It's all about perspective, right?
There you go. I like that. That's really good. That was very clever. You might be right. Yeah, if one lands in front of me while I'm driving, I'll stop.
Happy Easter, by the way. Late Easter. Hope you guys had a good one.
We did.
We did, of course, like a normal Easter egg hunt for the kids. But
I saw even the adults doing it too in your photo. That's awesome. You know what?
The adults never get to do anything.
Heck yeah.
We just got like, we could have got some alcoholic beverages and things like that, but I'm not one to promote that. Right. So not hating on anybody who is, but so we had like iced teas, coffee's cool. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Hold up.
I'm not putting out cigarettes or anything like
that. You had iced tea at your party?
Yeah. Yeah, iced tea and ice cube.
Do you have ice cube as well?
Ice cube and iced tea. Nice.
So yeah, we were just putting out these things, and it was just funny to watch the adults go. Some of the eggs had like money in them, things like that, and it was just kind of funny to see the adults running around, and it just reminds you that we're all just big kids.
100%.
You know what I mean? You see, we're just bigger. Kind of not that different when you see them all running around like that. So anyway, it was a good time. So Angela said GeoGuessr's the app.
What did the Easter Bunny bring y'all's kids? Anything cool?
I don't know, lots of candies, I guess.
Taylor Swift tickets. I don't know.
Taylor Swift tickets.
For real?
Yeah. My daughter's going Thursday. Yeah.
She actually got tickets. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it was weird because a lot of her friends got tickets. And so she was trying. And of course, they basically, I guess she went into like a pool or a lottery or something like that, but she never got the email saying, hey, you can order, or at least try to order. So she was kind of bummed about it. And my wife was talking to one of our friends, and she said they had bought a couple of tickets early on, and then somehow they got upgraded seats, so they're down closer. And she's like, I'll sell, if you know anybody that wants them, I'll sell them for what I got in them, which was $250 for 2 tickets. So that was good, because those same seats right now are $1,000 a seat. It's insane. And that's way up top. The ones down at the bottom are like $4,000 a piece, $4,500 a piece, because basically people have bought them and then they're just flipping them, scalpers basically.
Yeah, Twitter was afire the day that those tickets went on sale, and so many people were upset about scalpers, like people just going and buying the and then somebody else, I can't remember who it was, but like an older band had said that they were parting ways with Ticketmaster because their plan was for when their tickets were sold that Ticketmaster was going to somehow stop the scalpers, but they didn't, right? So they were like, well, screw Ticketmaster, we're out. And they quit their partnership with them.
Yeah. I mean, we saw the same thing with PlayStation 5s when they came out, man. People were, you had bots just literally consuming all of them, making all the purchases, and then they would turn around and flipping them for 2 to 3 times the original cost. So it's something we're going to probably always deal with.
So somebody's asking about your audio system in the Tesla. How is
stock? It's stock right now. So I am wanting to upgrade. And I was telling Joe that I've seen a lot of people that have taken the factory 8-inch subwoofer and replaced it with something else. But I don't know if they're bypassing the internal amplifier / DSP. And there's no way that I would run this thing if I couldn't do that, because I'm quite sure that it's got some kind of limiter built into it, because it's 8-inch subwoofer stock, right? So they're not going to send that thing 20 hertz when it's trying to play 100 dB. They're just not doing it.
Yeah.
So I do know that people do that. I just don't know what else to do. Like it's got a nice sound system and it's not great.
Tonality wise, what would you say tonality?
Tonality wise, I really like it. I do. I could use more top end for me. But the bass is very well distributed. I'm actually running all the speakers in here. It's got like a spatial thing where you can play around. Like it's got a slider. Actually, I'll show you guys because I'm on autopilot, so nobody has to worry about me working or hurting myself here. All right, check it out. So there's this immersive sound, and I just leave it at standard. Can y'all see that?
I'm gonna put it up here.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll leave it at standard, but you can go to high or auto. Oh, I'm sorry, high or off.
Okay.
But then right here, the pillars, I don't know, maybe that's like
You got the Oro set up right there.
Dude, I've got Oro in my car. I don't have it
You got
in my
the
house.
Oros. That's
Right?
funny. That's
So
funny.
that's the thing, man. If I start replacing the upfront speaker or actual speakers in this car, I have a feeling it's going to be something that I don't want to get into. It's probably going to cost a lot of money to replace them all. Because if I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do it like half-assed. I'm going to actually do it right.
So I made a video of a guy I know who had a Tesla Model 3 Performance, and he did his whole system, but the front, right? The front trunk was all audio equipment. Like if you open that thing up, it was all audio equipment, right? Like just amplifiers. Like he went all out. And that, I guess, in the rear, right rear, there was is that where the normal sub is on the Model 3? I think so.
Well, in mine, that's where it is, like in
the 8-inch, right? So he replaced it with a PSI audio. I guess it's PSI sub in there, and then he had another like custom. He said that they custom made this sub for him. Like the actual driver, they made him a custom sub. So it sounded pretty nuts, but he had to bypass all the stuff. You know, he kind of just tuned everything himself. But yeah, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, so I got a friend who competes in sound quality. He's got a Model 3, and he's done all sorts of stuff, amplifiers, and I mean, that system sounds great. So I guess I should ask him, but I think that this car may be different with what it comes stock. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it other than the rear and the trunk. It's got a big old notch, like where like a spare tire well would be in most cars, but it's notched out like really deep to the point where my 12-year-old daughter literally can fit inside of it, and I can close the lid like cover back on top of it, so she can fit all the way inside of this thing. So I'm thinking maybe like a good 15-inch subwoofer in a sealed enclosure back there, and it would be completely hidden, like nobody would even know.
Still,
I like that.
That's so one thing that I'm curious about is, you know, how we in home theater we're talking about taming reflections, and so you got this big, massive, hard surface above you. I wonder how that, you know, impacts the sound quality of everything.
Oh, I'm sure it does, man. Like sometimes I'll get in here and kind of talk, and I can hear like my own echo. So it's certainly more than a normal car, but can't do anything about it. So,
but dude, it's awesome, man. It's one of the things. It's like, okay, I've got this awesome drive, awesome ride. It's a cool view. Tunes are good enough, you know. So,
you know, what's interesting about the car is to be a little bit technical, because I have to go there. Is, you know, in home audio we always talk about like critical distance, meaning there's a space, there's a distance where you're either in the direct dominant field, where most of the sound is just the direct sound from the speaker, right? Of course, there's always going to be reflection, but the direct sound is much stronger, right? And that's when you're close to speakers. Like right now, I'm at my desk, I can touch the speaker, I'm in the direct dominant field, right? But then there's going to be a point, if I keep backing up, where I'm hearing more reflections than direct sound. Right. And then there's a point, the critical distance is where I'm like in between and they're equal.
Like the sweet spot.
In a car, it's so weird because it's like, are you in the direct?
It's always, you're always
everything's reflecting. Like, where are you?
I mean, it's like, so you got to view like a normal speaker has a driver, right? And then the driver is mounted to a baffle. In a car, everything is the baffle. Like pretty much everything except for probably the high frequencies, and we'll just say like 8 kilohertz and above, and I'm kind of making up a number, is reinforced by whatever is around it, right? It's not just so much reflection, it's part of the radiating surface at that point, right? If you take a speaker and you have an infinite baffle, then everything is redirected off of that baffle below a certain frequency.
Ike says only Joe would make this comparison.
Weirdest thing.
He said only Joe would make this comparison, and I would say only Aaron would go and like continue to explain what's actually happening, right? So the way I'm understanding from what you're saying is like we're in the giant horn. So let's say, all right, if I back up, I'm in the reverberant field, right? But what if this speaker has a big old horn that comes out to here? Now where am I?
Yeah, I mean that's
right?
one way of looking at it too. Especially when you like, I'll show you guys again. So the speakers in the corner, the dash, right? These down here, corner loaded. This tweeter right here, not corner loaded, but all of this is a baffle. Right? You know what I'm
How
saying?
many
So
tweets?
it's weird,
Are there
dude.
3 tweeters right there? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Where was?
I think what's in the dash is like a mid range or something
Ah,
like that.
okay.
And
So
then the
mid range in
tweeter
the
in the
dash.
cell.
But then you showed me
Yeah.
another tweeter up on the
Yeah.
A pillar.
That thing, I think that's probably, if I had to guess, I would say that that's probably a full range, but I have no idea. That's a wild guess just based off the size and what it's probably playing.
That's
I'm
just
guessing
the
it's
height.
probably like
That's the height.
yeah. If I had to guess, I'd say they probably like cut it from like 300 hertz and let it play all the way up, or maybe like band pass at 300 to 5K or something. I don't know.
Amazing.
I'd be curious to find out though. I could be completely off base.
Take it apart, man.
I'm gonna do it right now. Hold on.
You know, so
Start measuring it.
just to finish up that whole thing with the reverberant field and all that, it seems to me that it's more like the bass. You're almost always in the reverberant field when it comes to in the car, right? Like it's so small, everything is just a reflection for the most part. But with the highs, it's almost all direct. So it's not like, you know, it's not a straight line, right? Where all of them are equal. So I think that's what I've kind of found out.
Right.
Jason, thank you for.
That's what makes car audio so fun.
Yeah, and that's why I use it to test my my app, because if it can work with car audio, it'll be fine with home audio and home theater. Jason, thank you for the super chat. He says, "Hope you guys had a good Easter. Keep up the good work."
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. So speaking of little height speakers, right? Little tiny baby height speakers, Atmos speakers. If you're Michael, right? He doesn't say hi. He doesn't say hi. It's Atmos speakers.
I do it both ways.
Okay, so you have some new speakers.
I do.
So what's up? Can you tell us about these new speakers?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Definitely pretty cool. So
big boys. You got some big boy speakers up there.
Yeah, so it's been like 4 years in the making and planning and preparing and drooling. So, you know, I've heard a ton of JTR systems over the past, I guess, 3 or 4 years. When I first flew up to here, JTR, visit their headquarters, I saw or had a chance to hear 3 JTR systems. Then came back probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months later, did 10 or 12. No, I did 12 home theater tours in 4 days. A lot of those were JTRs, at least several of them. Then I did a tour in Kansas City. A lot of those had JTR. So I've heard this brand over and over and over. And every time I was in somebody's home theater, I just was literally blown away going, man, this is exactly what I'm striving for. And so just over the past 4 years, we've been slowly trying to, you know, replace and upgrade my setup, because I've had mine for not quite, well, I guess technically I've had it 16 years since I moved into my home. But I've seen a lot of revisions, continually upgrading, you know, and it had always been Klipsch for a long time, but I went with a coaxial driver. So there's eight of those. So they're time aligned, you know, physically. It's got a compression driver, which I've always liked compression drivers. A lot of the higher end Klipsch have compression drivers. So I definitely like that sound. And they're angled, which is super cool for my setup, because my side surrounds, at least the main one, when you come in the room, it's kind of in your way. Like you're literally going to face plant it. And so I had to kind of mount those. I'm 5'11", so I had to mount it pretty close to my height. So that's definitely probably a little bit taller than, you know, originally 15 years ago, Dolby Atmos or Dolby was suggesting 2 to 3 feet above you. And I was definitely at the 3 foot mark.
So the ones we see on the wall there are your rear surrounds, right? And then you have heights all on the wall.
So I have 2 side surrounds, 2 rear back surrounds. Now the back ones are mounted up a little bit higher because I have a door entry. So it's got to be right. I mean, it's literally right above the threshold of the door, not threshold, that'd be at the bottom. So the top part anyway.
Yeah, so your rear surrounds have to be placed a little higher.
Yeah, so they're
Okay.
back, but like I said, the good thing is they're at a 45-degree angle, so they're aimed right at my listening position, which works great. And then the height speakers are at 45-degree angles as well. You mount them differently, if that kind of makes sense. So, well, of course, they're flush mounted. So,
so here's what I want to know. I've been using coaxial for height speakers for a while now.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the ones that I'm using are not 10-inch.
Yeah, sure.
drives, but the principle is still the same.
Yeah.
Right. Where the on-axis and off-axis response is more similar, and it's a point source, an actual point source.
Correct.
And kind of curious to hear what you have found because of that.
So part of it, all right, so there's a lot that changed just in going from what I had to what I've got now, because my previous surrounds were all wide dispersion. So I had a tweeter and a woofer firing one way, tweeter and woofer firing another way. So again, that was one of those recommendations back 15, 16 years ago. Dolby wanted you to disperse that sound, and that's how we got the surround sound kind of thing.
Yeah.
As we began to upgrade to DTS Master, what was the other one? DTS Master and Dolby True HD. Then they began to kind of shift a little bit and say, okay, we'd really kind of recommend you having direct radiating speakers. Yeah, but I just never did. I've kept my same setup, and I'm pretty content. You know what I mean?
What difference did you notice?
So the biggest thing is, so before you didn't really know exactly where the sound was coming from, because it's just kind of blends into the room. You know it's back here somewhere, but you can't go, okay, it's right back there kind of thing. Now,
it can be good and bad, right?
It can be.
Okay.
But just right now, number one, I've got just this massive cohesive sound because they're all identical. I've got 4 Atmos, or there I go again.
Real review right now. See, Fred says, look at the smile now. All right.
It's easy to tell when people say that in my reviews. Like, they can determine how well I like something based on how big my smile is.
I count the little wrinkles on the side right there. See, just like the 2 thumbs up, like two little smile wrinkles.
For sure, man.
All right. So what are you noticing? Like, you're watching some of these movies, demos. What's happening?
We watched a full movie. So we watched Ready Player One. And it's funny because I hadn't seen the actual movie since it first came out. Now, of course, I've done the same demo over and over and over and over, but I haven't seen the whole movie. And so it was just really cool hearing. I mean, that movie, the whole movie has some amazing height effects, surround effects. It's just done very, very, very well. But just the level of detail, being able to kind of pinpoint and just physically hear the spatial cues kind of moving around the room. That's just different than what I've been experiencing over the past, how long I've had my setup. So, and actually I didn't install Atmos till, what was it? Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe is when I installed my in-ceiling speakers.
So I'm assuming you had to recalibrate also, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. We had to recalibrate, rerun Odyssey. So we're trying something different. We're actually trying to not use the mini DSP. And so, just to try to see, like, not yet. So we're just trying to see what Odyssey can do on its own. Because ideally, I review so much stuff, I would love to be able to get my system dialed in without the need for doing that. And then that way, when I swap something out, it's kind of more of a fair comparison, because if I review something, I'm pulling the mini DSP out.
Yeah.
Because I need to see what can an Anthem AVM 70 do in and of itself.
Right.
So, but so I'm enjoying it. It's
That's
really
awesome, man.
I watched the video and I laughed because you said, we always say that we're done, right? Or like it's a never-ending journey, and we say that we're done, but we know we're not. And then you're like, but I think I'm actually done. And I was like, oh, that's a lie. Like,
but no, but what
like
I said,
years, it might change.
I really don't think so. Seriously. So electronics, absolutely. I mean, projector's going to be upgraded over time. Processor's going to be upgraded over time. I may add some tactile transducers over time. But as far as like
more speakers,
that could happen, but I don't think my room's big enough. Now, maybe if I move and my room gets bigger, then I could see maybe adding another 2 speakers. But as far as like the level of speakers that I'm at right now, the level of subwoofers, I promise, man, I don't see where else I would go.
What if JTR came out with like a, you know, Wisdom Audio type of line array?
Yeah. I mean, I just don't need it.
No?
I mean, that's
Line
the thing.
array?
I mean, like I'm 100% content
All right.
right now. I mean, seriously, it's at that level.
All right. Don't ever come out
Really?
with a line array, JTR.
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry about
Or do. And then let's see. We'll come back to this video.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of line arrays, though, Wisdom invited me to come out to their, I don't know if it's basically like their, oh my goodness, their factory, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're doing like a Wisdom training. And so I get a chance to make some content out there. That's in another month, I think. So I'm just trying to think of my calendar. So, but I'll get a chance to kind of hear some more line source, I guess. So they don't have line arrays. They've got line source.
I forgot. That's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Chris was asking a question. I'll have to look it up. I think they're 93 dB sensitivity. I don't know. Let me look.
Oh yeah, he's asking the sensitivity of those.
Yeah, I'll find out real quick.
It was in the 90s for sure, because I remember we mentioned it and you looked it up last time.
95
Is
dB.
it a 10-inch?
10-inch.
Yeah, 10-inch,
Okay.
95 dB.
Yeah,
compression.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who makes the driver? Is it BNC or BMS or?
I have no idea. Yeah, Jeff's pretty tight-lipped on where he sources. My understanding with I know with the subwoofers, he kind of has designed and manufactured his own, if that makes sense. Like it's to his specs. So now there might be something kind of similar.
Right, like somebody else built it, but it's to his specs.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean that's typical.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
completely typical. I was thinking that with some of his large speakers, I wanted to say that he was using BMS drive units, but I couldn't remember. So I was just kind of curious if he knew what he used for those.
Sure.
Dang, son.
So
by a Mustang.
Real quick, did you guys see the Shit Audio Sin?
Mm-mm.
You know what that is?
Bro, watch your mouth.
SYN.
Mm-mm. What is it?
No.
So, you know, Shit Audio is known for making like mostly 2-channel stuff, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so they came out with this kind of like surround processor, I guess.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to me because it's still like, it's kind of like the old school Pro Logic, Aaron.
Okay.
Right? Got the Pro Logic. So meaning.
I see.
No shade. No shade at all.
Yeah. Right? No shade, Aaron.
No, I'm serious. Okay. And
all right.
because it's 2-channel, it'll work with everything. Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
It works with everything. So like with Pro Logic, right? All you needed was a VCR that could do stereo. Remember that was a thing, right? You could have a VCR that didn't do stereo.
Yeah.
Or you had the one with the stereo and it had the 2 RCA outs, and like that's what you needed to be able to get Pro Logic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now, of course, it's easy to get stereo, and center channel is basically derived from the left and right channel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Center channel, technically, it should be not just the sum of the left and right. It should be the sum of what they have in common minus what's on the left and minus what's on the right. If we're going to be technical, right? Because you don't want, you want them to kind of have discrete signals, I guess. Not necessarily this, but you don't want them to have so much overlap, right? And I think they're playing around with that. But then surround channels, you can just derive by connecting positive and positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between the left and right, like what's not in common with them, and that gets thrown into the rear. That's kind of how Pro Logic actually worked, right? It was just that plus delay for the rears, right? Plus a little bit of EQ, but for the most part, that's what was happening, right? So it's interesting that they're doing this. This is something that they're doing for, I guess, for a desktop, or if you have a TV and you just want to hook up RCAs and you can kind of get us around, and you have an ability to change the width, you can change how much surround, and it derives the LFE also,
right?
So that's all cool. Like I like that stuff. And for me, I personally I don't need it because I actually have like, you know, discrete
Sure.
Dolby Atmos processors, things like that.
This might be
But
a
I
good
thought,
way, like a better step up from a sound bar.
yeah, I
know?
thought it would be interesting, right? I guess I just thought it was interesting from the standpoint of like maybe it'll get 2-channel guys like, oh, this is pretty simple, and they're like, oh, this is kind of cool. I like it.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe let me check out that Atmos stuff. Let me see what that's about.
Yeah.
But it also made me think, I want that in my car, right? So if you think of car audio, you have left and right. Every car has left and right, right? And almost every car also has left and right rear. But for the most part, those are just playing what's in the left and right, which is understandable because if somebody's in the back seat, you want them to hear the same music, right? But if it's just me, I would rather have like some kind of surround thing going on. I'd rather use those back speakers as surround speakers, right? And I looked it up. There's no such like up mixer that I could find. We lost Aaron, but Aaron, do you know of any up mixers for car audio that's like a Dolby up mixer? I looked, I couldn't find one.
Yeah, so well, I can like go in old school. There's one called RFQ 5000 because I owned that, and that took
RFQ. I'm already there.
RFQ. You have to find it on eBay. And that took stereo signal, and I think it was Dolby Pro Logic 2 out because I used that for a little bit. Then there's like something called the JBL MS8. That was their Logic 7? Y'all remember that?
Oh yeah.
MS8.
I had that.
That was specifically for car audio.
Oh, okay.
And there's been other companies that have kind of tried to do like mono, like some mono for center channels and differential rear fill. So it's like R minus L, L minus R for the rear fill speakers. Alpine had something where they were running, gosh, I want to say it was Dolby Pro Logic 2, but I'm not 100% sure. And then they came out with their own with like the H800, I believe is the model, a DSP. They might even have something newer than that now. I think they actually do. So yeah, there's been different companies, I guess really was what I'm trying to say. There's been different companies use different things for car audio. And there's been one or two that have been kind of promising something for a while, but they haven't delivered yet. And I mean like for a long while, like 6 or 7 years.
How do I buy this MS8?
It's no longer produced. Yeah, it's I think they quit making it probably around like 2012 or 2013.
So I got to go on eBay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, be careful because I think some of the people were having issues with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and if you get one, you have to have one that has the display, and it has to have the display cable because it's a special cable. Like it's not like a stereo mini jack cable. It's like a special cable, and you have to have the display to do the setup. If you don't have the display, if you go on YouTube, you can see a review I did for it before I was even. I wasn't even doing reviews. Buy this. But I just made a video for it for some car audio people to kind of walk through it. And that's probably one of my most viewed videos. And I made it in 2010, I think. So funny.
Reverend Slim says Logic 7 was the biz back in the day. Yeah. I had it in the M3 and I didn't love that system, to be honest.
I mean, it was okay, but nothing can compete with a really good aftermarket tune if you know what you're doing. It really can't. I mean, as far as like getting in, setting time delays, equalizing each side of it, like your left side and your right side, so the response is matched between seats, right? Like or in your front seat. Nothing beats that. So, but there's been a lot that are kind of close.
Did you like when you implemented the Dolby Pro Logic?
I only did it for rear fill. I wanted because at the time we didn't have processors that we could do internal matrixing with, like through the DSP. So you had to do something like that, or you could have wired it up, I guess, but I just didn't want to do it that way. I wanted the DSP to handle it, and it also I think added additional delay for the channels too. So did you like
the effect when you're?
That was cool, I guess. It was the product itself though was noisy. I mean, it was just very noisy. So it ruined any benefit that I would have had. It just ruined it.
I see. Yeah. So anyway, I called them. I called Shit Audio, and I said, "Hey, can I use this in my car somehow? Like, you know?" And they're like, "You probably have to use a power inverter, which I don't want to use."
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're like, "It might make some noise." I'm like, "No, I don't know about that." I'm not trying to hear
not worth the trouble, man.
no.
That's
But it was interesting. I thought it was a cool thing for, maybe the 2-channel folks to maybe get into more multi-channel stuff.
Yeah.
And I welcome new things,
Sure. Innovation.
Even though it's not new.
Yeah.
It's not new, but it's just trying something new. I like that.
Right. That's cool though. I'd be interested to play around with that.
Let's see here.
While you're looking,
I bet you Cheap Audio Man's going to review it because he seems to review a lot of their stuff.
I saw he had reviewed it.
Okay.
So I'll probably check that out.
Okay.
I had one of my subscribers send me this today. This is crazy. It's kind of like pro audio.
Show it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was a subwoofer that.
Are those subwoofers too?
Yeah. Oh
wow.
Why is one like down? Is that supposed to be like that?
No, it broke.
I was gonna say that doesn't look right.
Yeah, that's sketchy. So watch this. I'll pull this one up. So
the Phoenix Sun Stadium.
Yeah, he asked me if I watched Spores, and you guys probably. I don't watch really any. Spores.
Bro, that hits you in the head.
Yeah, that's like sketchy right there. So let me stop sharing that. I want to show you the other one because they basically just stopped the game.
Stop the game, right?
Yeah, which was smart.
Yeah,
they're lucky you didn't just like straight up fall.
Yeah.
Right? Let's see.
So while you're finding that, I'll throw it. Did you guys?
I thought it came down.
No, they just lowered it to fix it. But that's crazy, man. You can see it dangling right there. Super crazy.
That's insane. Did you guys see from the I don't watch golf, but I saw the replays. Did you guys see that where that tree fell at the Masters? I think it was on Friday or Saturday, and it landed. There's a big tree, and it landed between like a group of a couple people on each side of it. So nobody got injured.
Yeah.
But I mean, like 5 or 10 feet in either direction for each of those groups, they probably would have died.
Yeah, that's
big tree.
Yeah, that's nice.
I feel like trees are slow. Like when you see them fall, you're like,
yeah, but dude, once that thing's moving, dude, you better move.
Yeah,
it's going down.
You better get out the way.
It increases with speed as it falls.
Yeah, it was raining a lot too, so I don't know. Like I'm sure that definitely had something to do with it, but
that's crazy.
That was crazy. Yeah, you need to find that video just for your own edification. You go watch it. You'll be like, holy crap.
Edification.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm not sure I used it right.
Hey,
probably didn't.
What does it mean? And to tie it back, like, does it relate to Edifier, that speaker brand, in any way?
You know what? I've never thought about that. I've never once thought about that. That's funny. Maybe they're edificationing you, I don't know, on how it's supposed to sound, which I don't think is true because their speakers generally aren't that good based on my experience. So,
all right. Let's see.
This is Joe's favorite speakers. That's what he uses it to.
He likes
all the stuff.
I rock the Edifiers.
There's his reference speakers. The ones with the tweeter mounted to the front of the baffle and not flush mounted.
All far.
Yeah.
All far. Speaking of which, well, this is actually not that related, but I did a calibration for a client that I've had for a while, and he got some bass traps.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The company. So basically, here's the thing. I asked him, by the way, if it was okay if I talked about it. And he said, yeah, for sure. It's a learning experience for everybody, right? And so I think this is something that all of us can learn from. And so he was just looking for a way to increase the treble, like the high frequencies of like his reflections. He kind of just wanted, he was kind of cool with like how it sounded, but he's had other speakers where it sounded like, the room was interacting a little bit more, and he kind of liked that. Because it's not a huge room. So you've talked about it before, Aaron, like where the side reflections sometimes are pleasing,
Yeah. And
he has curtains all around, which are absorbing all the high frequencies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's understandable, right? That might happen. And so he called up this company, and they were, he told them what the issue was. And so they said, you know what, if you're not getting enough high frequencies, maybe you should try some bass traps to reduce the bass.
Okay.
And I was like,
that didn't make sense. Yeah.
All right. Well, check it out. So he got some bass traps that I guess they have this new technology with a membrane in them. I don't know how it works exactly, but it typically you have to have huge bass traps to absorb like these low frequencies, right? So I didn't know what kind he got. I said, you know what? I don't know if we have to recalibrate your subs or not, but let me measure some and see how they compare to the previous measurement, right? And I noticed like there was this big old dip at 35 hertz that wasn't there before. I'm like, 35 hertz? That's crazy. Looked it up. I guess that's what this whole membrane thing is supposed to do, like absorb certain frequencies.
Oh,
and I was
like a Helmholtz resonator.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's kind of weird because like it was flat before. Like, why would I want to take those frequencies out? Now I got to undo the thing, right? I said, I don't know, man. You might want to send those back. He's like, they're already out of the box. They were big. It's cool. I'll just leave them, you know? I said, all right, well, I got to recalibrate then, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I had to add back the bass that it took out. So here's the lesson. The lesson is before you do upgrades like room stuff, room treatment, things like that, I think it's important to have a particular goal in mind. Like, is there an issue that you're trying to resolve? Because if there's no particular issue that, if you're like, I heard sound treatment's good. All right. Yeah, it's good, but you have to get specific stuff, right? So I think they should have taken some measurements or asked him for some measurements, or if he had any measurements, because I have tons of measurements for him, right? Like hundreds, right? So if they would have looked at that, they could have probably said like, oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't take out 35 hertz for no reason.
Yeah.
So it's just something to be careful about, right? If you're doing these things, these companies, it's their job to sell you products, right? That's their job. So I'm not hating on that. But I wish that they would ask more questions.
But that's a good point, though. Kind of in the same vein is a lot of people, myself included, when you get started, you're told that you need like absorption panels, and some rooms may not need it, right? So like the first thing we typically do is we just start slapping panels on the walls. Like, cool, this guy on the internet said I need a 2-inch Roxol panel on this wall, or I need 4 inches on this wall, and you just do it, right? But you don't really know. And I mean, I don't know what the solution there is unless you just, it kind of comes with experience. And in car audio, one of the things that we always told newcomers was like, get out and go to shows and ask people for demos and ask them about their setups, right? So you can't really easily do that in home theater, but it's becoming more easy now with like the internet. You can have Facebook groups and things like that. Even AVS Forum has a regional thing, right, where people will say, hey, we're going to get together at so-and-so's place on this day or whatever and demo their system. So I don't know. I just think it kind of comes with experience, but I agree with you. You can't just do stuff willy-nilly.
Paul says measuring is not for closers.
That's what I'm laughing.
Where's the salesmanship? Yeah. Yeah. To me, I think what I recommended to him was like, maybe you might want to play with diffusers, right? If you're trying to get a little bit more ambient sounds coming from, reflections, maybe the diffuser sounds like it makes more sense than changing up the tonality. Anyway, when I asked, he's like, yeah, it's just a good learning experience for everybody else. Like, don't just go and buy stuff, because he had to pay me again, right, to recalibrate. And so I was like, are you sure you just don't want to return them? Then you don't have to pay, everything. No, he's like, nah, it's cool.
Get your money back.
Yeah. But I think he wanted to just share the experience so that other people can learn from it. So thanks to him.
Makes sense. Yeah.
What else? You guys want to talk about anything specific? Anything on your minds?
So I'm wrapping up testing for the Macintosh amplifier. I actually started posting the result, not posting, but typing up the review and getting it ready to go live on my site. So hopefully it'll go live tomorrow or the next day. And dude, that thing, that amplifier is a freaking beast.
Yeah.
It should be, as much as it costs and as much as it weighs. It better be. But luckily, it lives up to the specifications, because I know that there's a lot of people who are concerned that you're not getting what you pay for. And I don't even know, honestly, I don't know that you can say that you're getting what you're paying for in terms of just flat performance. It's there, but I guess what I mean to say is, like, I don't know what else is out there that would do the exact same thing, but might cost half the price. I just don't know. But it definitely meets spec. I mean, it does a clean 500 watts into 2 channels at 2, 4, and 8 ohm off. I even ran it off my 15 amp breaker, and it didn't. It never tripped the breaker. So it does it, and it pulls it cleanly. And then the peak headroom is like 800 to 850 watts per channel. I mean, it's legit, man. Thing ain't no joke. But it's like $10,000. So there you go.
Well, I guess the question is like, what amp competes in looks?
Yeah.
Which amp looks that cool? Maybe a Class A amp? I don't know.
There's a lot of amplifiers that will do that kind of power if you go digging.
Like
Class
Krell?
D amps. Yeah, I'm sure they do, and I'm sure like some of these Class D amps probably do too. I mean, I haven't honestly, I haven't taken the time to go look, but I'm sure they're out there. But dude, that if you like the look of that amp, you love the look of that amp. I know I do. I'd love.
It's gorgeous, man. I mean, think about it. That's one of their. Like that's one of the draws for Macintosh is the sexiness, the appeal, the classiness of it. I mean, they're gorgeous. There's no doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
But like you said, they back up their measurements too. You know, it's not just a pretty box. It's pretty box.
It does what it says it's going to do.
A lot of the power.
Yeah. So at least, and then the AV processor that I tested, it's MX100. I think it's like $5,000 retail. Okay. That thing is the best. So I compared it to the results from Amir's AV processors that he's measured, and it measures better. I think better than anything that he's measured so far. Other people were the ones who clued me in on it, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go look. And so I think it's probably the best measuring AV processor to date that has been measured. I will preface that. But yeah, dude, that amp is legit. I finished up my resistor boards, got those suckers cooking, put them on a big old 2-foot wide aluminum heat sink.
Oh, that's
legit. It's so awesome, man. And then I've got my reactive loads that are coming in at some point, waiting on somebody to get some parts for them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Dude,
I was just looking at the Audio Research. Is that it? Audio Research has some nice looking power amps. You seen those?
No, I'm familiar with the brand, but I don't know which amps you're talking about.
Yeah, they look pretty nice. They're like, I don't know if you can see this.
Dude, you need to look up Dan Agostino's.
I've seen those.
Michael referenced Krell. He used to design Krell amps.
Yeah,
I guess that one falling out at some point. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh, let me look at my email real fast.
I'm cool with that.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
It's gonna take me a second here. There is an amplifier that I stumbled onto, and I asked the guy if he would be interested in sending me one for me to review, and his reply was basically like, yeah, that would be cool, but I build these by hand, and I really don't want the kind of attention that a review is going to bring me, because I can't make that many that fast. Like, he's confident that it's going to test well, that it's going to meet spec. So, but I want you guys to see it because I want one just because it looks cool. Okay. It is the IOM.
Say it again.
IOTA?
No, IOM.
Say it again.
Oh.
IOM Classic Premium Mono.
Huh. IOM Classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
Hey, oh yeah, I'll pull that up. That looks nice.
Please.
Yeah, that thing looks awesome.
Boom. There you go. Let's see if I can make it any bigger. There we go. IOM Classic.
Oh, that's cool.
Doesn't it? It's a Class D amp. And the module that it uses, I can't remember if it's Hypex or if it's a Purify. But regardless, I mean, it uses a good Class D module. It looks legit. I think it's, what's the rating on that one? Is that the 1 kilowatt one, or is that is it like 500 watts by one? I think it's might be 500 watts.
Those meters are totally necessary, by the way.
Yeah,
dude, they are.
They're necessary.
500 watts is what it says.
They dance for you. You know what I mean? When you're playing music, they dance for you.
2 of those little mono blocks, I think it's like, I want to say it was maybe $1,600 or $1,800 for a pair of them.
Actually, here's.
I may be wrong, but
I had a couple more pictures there.
That's cool. Oh, they're small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a nice looking thing. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like it.
For sure.
I like it.
Yeah. That was pretty sweet.
it's funny how sometimes you just need a little bit of analog. You know what I mean? Everything's
Yeah.
so digital. Once in a while, it's just nice to have something that moves in a analog
Yep.
way.
Yep.
That
Kind of like
would
me
be-
and my booty shaking. Yeah.
Oh, dang. All right. Let's see here. I have some notes.
Skip right on over that one.
No,
Next.
it's okay. You guys, if you want to, if Michael, if you would like to continue on that topic, then
On what?
his booty
The booty
shaking.
shaking.
Oh no, man, I'm good.
No, you're good?
I've never seen it. It's all good.
We can move on.
I'll have to
Yeah.
show it to you if you at Audio Vice Live.
Oh snap!
Oh,
That's exactly what you're going to say.
That's what his
Gonna say.
that's what his hip's gonna do.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Bring a
man.
walker just in case.
Oh man, that's funny.
Said your booty's like a metronome. Your booty
Oh,
shake
yeah?
is like a metronome. Bloop.
It's just like perfectly in time. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I did a experiment about, localization of bass. We talk about that, right? Like what frequency can we localize bass? So
Uh-huh.
I did a little experiment. I have a sub that's kind of in the center of the room. Well, I have lots of subs right now in the theater, right? So it's kind of interesting. I just played some pink noise from 120 hertz down. I don't remember the exact frequency range actually. It was a while ago. But I think 150 hertz and down. Pink noise, right? So from 20 hertz to that. And I did that, played it at a decent volume, but not so much that things were shaking, and not so much that the driver itself was making any noise. Just a decent volume where you could definitely hear it, right? And then I asked my wife and kids to come in. I had them do it separately, but I said, point to the speaker that's making the sound, right? So they're walking around the room, and I swear, like 5 minutes, they could not find where this thing was coming from, right? And so I'm like, dang, I thought I could find out. I thought I could tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out I think I could, and I know why I could and they couldn't, right? And this goes back to kind of the Easter egg hunt, right? When you're trying to find something, the hot and cold game, right?
Yeah.
When you get closer, hotter, right? Okay, so what you're used to when it comes to sound is when you get closer to it, it gets louder, right? So you're trying to hear where's it getting louder. But because they're going in and out of nulls, they're walking around this room, right? They're walking into a null. They're like, okay, I'm further. They walk into a peak, and now they're like, it's around here somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. But what's tricky is there's lots of places where you might be either in a peak. If they went closer to the wall, they're like, okay, they started thinking it's around here somewhere. They move towards the corner. Oh, it's got to be here. The sound is louder. So that's why it's so tricky, is because the typical things that you would use to figure out localization, which is level, right? Just basic level, was tricking them.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, they couldn't find the thing.
Yeah.
The reason why I was able to tell though is maybe first of all because I knew where it was, right? So I had to. It's hard. You can't turn it off, right? If you know where it is, you can't unknow where it is.
Right.
But I could kind of perceive a difference between whether. So here's the second part of the experiment, right? And this is my test. I think I could tell if it was louder on this side versus this side. So I did a test where I say, okay, I'd have them stand in a place and I say, does it sound louder to your right or to your left? And they would almost always get it right. They could tell that it was, wherever the sub was, they could tell it was louder on that side of the room. Right. And then I'd ask them, was it louder to the front or the back? Right. And then I'd move them to a different location, a different quadrant. And they were correctly kind of like triangulating.
Like zoning in on it. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I thought that was interesting that they could tell what area it was at, but they couldn't pinpoint where it was at using the typical techniques that we would use. So that's it. That's the experiment. Show the audio.
You make a video on that.
That's funny. The audio optometrist.
So what are the results of that? Basically, is bass localizable, right? Below 150? Partially, I would say yes, if you if you're sitting in the same seat and you kind of know, like, all right, it's a little bit louder in this there on this side. That's localizing, right? A little bit. You can't pinpoint it. You can't say it's right there. You can't walk around and find it, but you can tell that it's somewhat louder in a certain region, right?
So
louder here than over here.
Kind of along that the same lines as that. There's a new thought. Maybe it's a new thought that some brands are kind of pushing, being able to intentionally put subwoofers here and here, and so your brain can determine, oh, okay, that bass is happening from up here. Have you heard of that?
The whole directional bass
yeah
thing?
Yeah, like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm not sure I buy into that. Now, I haven't experienced it yet, but I'm
gonna have to jump out.
All right, brother.
See you, Aaron. Good seeing you, bro.
All right.
Glad to see you,
likewise.
Man.
Later. Talk to you later. Peace.
Yeah, so directional bass.
It kind of goes along with what you're saying, that we can kind of tell where bass is, but I'm just wondering, is it even practical? You know what I mean?
I think
do I need to know where bass is coming from in a movie? You know?
The way I think about it is that it's different from localizing higher frequencies in that there are pressure zones. So let's say there's a quadrant, like you break up your room into 4, right?
Right, correct.
I would say you can kind of tell generally where the bass is coming from just because you know your room. I don't know that if you went into a random theater that you'd be able to detect it as well, but if you're so familiar with your room, I feel like you would be able to tell if I were to move a sub around just because you're so familiar with your room and how sounds work in your room, right?
Yeah, because I get the impression that, let's just say they put one in each corner of the room, but they intentionally want your brain to know that, okay, that explosion happened from the front right instead of just the room. I'm like, I just don't know if that would represent the real world. I mean, if you're in an explosion, man, you're just going to feel it all over your body if it's like close proximity to you.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think in the real world you'd be like, yeah, I could definitely tell that grenade landed behind me. I mean, I don't know.
I'm just thinking, when you're mixing, right? So you have the option in Atmos to put these explosions into all the speakers, right? So there's basically you can make the object size small or big.
Sure.
An explosion would you'd probably use a big object, right?
Right.
Nobody's gonna make a tiny little explosion that's like shaking your seats, right?
Yeah.
So just logically, they're probably gonna make an explosion activate all the speakers anyway.
Yeah.
Right. On top of that, then you have the option of putting that sound into the LFE channel. Right. So LFE is just, there's no left or right. It's just LFE.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
So in a practical sense, even if it did, right? Yeah. Even if you could kind of locate, okay, I know my sub's over here because my picture rattles over here. Over here, my door rattles when out. So okay, I can localize the bass. So what, right?
Yeah.
I think the real question comes down to, what would you rather have? Directional bass where you can tell that it's this coming from back here, or would you rather have all the speakers working together to create that virtual subwoofer, that one smooth response? To me, that's a better use of the bass.
Like I said, I'm not buying into it just yet. I mean, I've heard some talks about it, but and again, I haven't heard it myself. But I was just curious what your thoughts on that was.
I guess, you know what, if it could do both, if you didn't have to choose whether to have it work together, let's say if it could do that and also keep whatever directional stuff, cool, like, okay,
and
like, fine.
Another example, I've heard of certain brands that they claim that, by stacking their subwoofers, you get a taller sound.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know. Again, how do you get a taller bass sound?
Yeah. So, I think the test that I did.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. If you have a sub, right, and if you were able to lower it on a pulley, right, and move it up and down
Okay. Yeah.
while you sat in your seat, right?
Right.
You're pulling up and down.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear a difference, right? Because it's gonna activate different room modes,
Correct. I can
right? So
understand
right
that.
when it's in the middle, it's gonna have the same ceiling and floor bounce, so it's gonna sound a little different when it's right in the middle, right?
Right.
That's that we can derive. We know that that's true, right? How usable, like a lot of times it's just about being practical, right? Like, do you want to start stacking subs? Is that something you need to do?
Right.
So in case you stand up, that you know you can have a better response when you stand up.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't understand it so much.
Yeah, right. Like I said, it's a different thought, so.
Yeah, so I wouldn't mind those like those monolith ones that you had that they're dual. So they're not stacked, it's just 2 in 1. To me, like in my theater, that's more practical because I'm already taking up that floor space.
Sure. Yep.
So the fact that it's just higher, I don't care, right?
Yeah, you're adding 6 dB of gain or volume or SPL, I guess.
Yeah,
You're doubling, yeah.
So for me, it would just be more that like I'm adding more bass, I'm not taking up any more floor space than I'm already taking up. I'm cool with that. I think that it could help with some of the room modes, like realistically, right? It's like a lot of speaker manufacturers, they have floor standing speakers, and then they have ports in different locations. And instead of just doing one large port,
right?
Like SVS does this.
Yeah.
They have ports like kind of up on the top, in the middle, and then on the bottom. And it's just because they activate different modes, and so you kind of get a smoother response. ELAC does that also. So it's kind of the same concept.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to what's your return on that investment. Right?
Yeah.
You want to.
I'm just curious.
Focus on
because every company's trying to innovate. They're trying to move and advance forward. And sometimes my skepticism, and I'm not really a skeptical person, but a lot of times I am. When they first came out with, wide speakers, I'm like, really, dude? You're just trying to sell me a new, or give me another reason why I need to upgrade my, AVR. And then when they came up with height speakers, I'm like, oh my goodness, really, dude? Like, where are we going with this thing? And so sometimes I'm skeptical in that type, So now when they're saying directional bass, I'm like, what do you mean directional bass? So, but like I said, I'm open to it. I'd love to hear it or experience it myself.
It's because you're a grandpa now.
Maybe so, man.
It comes with the territory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I found out, I made a little note for myself that I have here about my review style when I go into something. And you said skepticism, right? And for me, I'm a hopeful skeptic.
There you go.
Meaning I'm hoping that it's going to work. Like I go in like, oh, I hope this works.
No.
But let's see if it works. Right?
I'm typically a hopeful optimist. I really am. Like when Clips came out with their new subwoofers, the Reference Premier, they've got to overcome this stigma that they've got. Not even a stigma, but just this bad rep that they've got over the years for not really having really great subwoofers. Golly, what is she doing in there?
I don't know, but
I think she's making a smoothie.
That's all good.
Sorry about that. But I have no idea what I was saying.
Okay, so hopeful.
Yes.
Hopeful optimist. And so you're talking about the clip subs.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that they'll do well, and I'm optimistic. But for some reason, when it comes to new technology, I'm just like, I don't know. Even like ART, art.
Yeah.
I'm like, it kind of sounds cool in theory, but again, I just want to experience it before I make a judgment against it or for it,
Yeah, and how I know this from experience. I know that what you're saying is true because it took us a long time to convince you to not use that Nikon. Using that yellow image Nikon for a while, and you're like,
it's good enough. It's nice.
It works.
Now I look back and it was doo-doo. Oh my gosh, it was terrible.
Yeah. So you have to. Youth man goes at his own pace.
Yeah.
Right? So
I'm very slow to move. I'm very methodical. I'm not one of those not spontaneous. What's the other word? Impulsive. I'm not impulsive at all. I'm almost the opposite of impulsive. I overthink something so that when I do make a decision, I have no regrets. Prime example. So I had the clipsless Scalas. So originally I didn't even want them. I bought them really just to to hear in my own system, in my own home, and really enjoyed how they sounded. They looked terrible because they were just antique and vintage, and so that's not really my style. I like a more modern appeal to it.
Mhm.
And so, but I got them, loved them, had them set up in my room, and it took me a long time before I made the decision to upgrade to them, because I wanted to make sure that once I sold my RF83s, that I would have no regrets. And once I sold them, zero regrets. Same thing when I eventually decided to move towards JTR. Once I sold my La Scalas, people say, "Hey, you have any regrets?" No, not at all. But that's because I really take my time and I try to make sure that when I do make a decision, I know I've done my research, I've done my thinking through and my processing, and it's the right decision for me. And so I don't want to have any regrets.
So I have I'll confess a little something here. So
Sorry.
So you combine what you just said, how you're like slow and you got to think things out, right?
Yeah.
Combine that with the fact that you said that your memory is not so good, like your short-term memory.
Yeah.
So what I do is I usually just like kind of plant a little seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then don't mention it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll just come up like you got this new idea that you heard. I'll be like, that's fine. It doesn't have to come from me.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, yeah. I'm like, I don't even have to say, yeah, that's what
You've been planting Oro like for a long time, but I hadn't seen
Yeah.
anything sprout from that yet.
Well, I don't know. Those angled speakers might be a little bit more conducive, I don't know.
They're still according to Dolby spec. I didn't even look.
That's fine. That's cool.
I have no idea where the Oro would be.
I'm actually that's funny, but I'm kind of curious to see if you were to try it, maybe you'd be like, it's not so bad now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you're gonna love it,
yeah,
but maybe you'd be like, I kind of get it. I kind of get it.
Yeah, I'd have to move them down quite a bit.
Well, not even moving them, just the fact that they're a different dispersion than what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. Try Oro in my. I got you. Yeah.
No, don't move anything. Of course, just maybe if you were to try, like, sounds different. Maybe you don't like it. I don't know.
Like
planting those dead Oro seeds. Yeah, man.
We like to have fun, man.
Yeah, it's all good. Fun. It's all good. Let's see here. Let's see here. Oh, by the way, you mentioned the Klipsch subs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
those are the enclosure's so huge on those.
The small one isn't though, and I think that's
lengthwise, like depthwise.
Okay, it is long, but I think the form factor, size wise, width and height is pretty small.
Okay, they just went.
Yeah, but they are a little bit deeper though. That's for sure.
Huh. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. But I think they had to do that to get that lower extension.
They had to.
So it's like, okay, there's physics involved in this. And so if you want deeper, which is one thing that, they always hit 20 and even sometimes higher. My previous RSW15s, they hit 20 and they drop like a rock. So I'm really grateful that they're reaching down to 16 hertz, 15 hertz, 17 hertz. I think that's phenomenal. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did this test recently also, speaking of like, up firing. I posted on my community page that I had some extra speakers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in my living room, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of curious to see if I fire these upward, right, and only play sound out of them, if it sounds like it's reflecting off the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like just a basic, simple test, right?
Sure.
Take a speaker, concentric, base it up, and only play sound out of those.
Right.
And does it sound like it's coming from the ceiling or not?
Mm-hmm.
And that's still, it's kind of like the idea of the up firing speakers, right?
Yeah.
And here's what I found. It always sounded like it was coming from the speaker, right? It didn't sound like it was coming from, bouncing off the ceiling, right?
Yeah.
And I even tried like covering the front with a pillow, right?
Okay.
And the idea is just you're getting too much information about where the source is, right? Okay. You're hearing the direct sound, and if you don't hear the direct sound, you're hearing a reflection that's hitting you first. That's not the ceiling first.
And so you were the one that you were doing the listening, or did you have somebody else do the listening?
I was doing the listening, but here's a quick finding, right?
Cheers.
If I were to just turn around, right, and have my back to the same exact setup, now I could get fooled.
Well, yeah, because your ears are facing forward. That makes sense.
And it's just so interesting though that just me facing forward, that
Sure.
that
That totally makes
Atmos
sense.
upfiring
Yeah.
worked way better,
Yeah. That
right?
totally makes
So
sense.
maybe if you're somebody who can't do height speakers, like mounting any speakers, anything like that, you know, a lot of people are against
Mm-hmm.
the upfiring speakers. And I know you've done a test and you're like, hey, this is pretty convincing. People were like,
It
convinced.
can be. You're right. Yeah. It's
Not as
kind of
good.
like it's my last resort. And
Mhm.
like you said, if you can't do in ceiling, if you can't do on ceiling, if you can't do height, okay, go with upfiring.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it's just limited in how well it's going to work. Like prime example, I had my son and at that time his fiance probably. I don't know if they were still dating or if they were anyway. So it's probably his fiance. They're now married. But I brought him into the room and I had the Klipsch RF 8060 FA. So they take the driver, the tweeter and the mid range, and they kind of countersink it inside the cabinet. And then they put foam around the speaker itself. And so what I found when I was listening to it, I didn't notice where they were. And I was curious, where would they hear it? And so when they were listening, I just said, just point to where you're hearing the sound. And every time they were pointing up here. And I'm like, that's interesting. You know, I didn't tell them what I had on. I didn't tell them anything, but I basically unhooked everything just except for those front two up firing speakers. But had they moved to the back row, I don't think they would have got the same experience because that angle now changes.
Right.
So I think it's just really limited on what you can do with the upfiring, but I think it can be a viable solution for certain applications.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think that the important thing is if you're experimenting with it, you may find that having them in the front is going to trick your brain less. If you really want to trick your brain, at least to the sides, or behind you is better, right? That's just basically what I found, and that's with just music. So I was just playing music and like basic content from it, pink noise and stuff like that. Another thing that I found was if you're playing like helicopters and stuff that's normally above you, like birds and things like that, your brain is already tricked, right? Just because you think that it's, you know, helicopters never
where it should
your level, right? So for the most part, your brain already says that should be up here somewhere, right? Anyway, Paul,
he's cracking me up, man.
Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting finding that those upfiring speakers are not as horrible as a lot of people say, right? They can work. Definitely try having them, you know, to the side or rear if possible.
I think it's worth the effort if you have the capability. Some people just don't want to. They don't want to cut holes or they don't want to mount. I can tell you right now, it was a pain in the butt mounting speakers to the ceiling. That's a big deal. Like I spent an hour and a half in my attic in the Florida sun. It's blazing hot up there. And I went up there and I was up there for an hour and a half. They're feeding, sending water bottles up through my the 8-inch hole when we pulled down the speaker. I'm like, hey dude, throw me a water up here. I'm dying. Because I didn't want to get dehydrated.
Yeah.
And after an hour and a half, man, I was starting to get a little sketchy. I want down. Yeah. I'm like, I want down. I'm serious. I'm not feeling good mentally. I'm exhausted. I'm just drenched in sweat and I'm tired, just every little movement because you're crawling up there. I don't have the ability to stand up in my attic. So I'm literally crawling on rafters and squatting down the whole time. I had one little board that I could stretch across the rafters, I guess you call them. And so I'd put a little piece of board on there, but you're laying on them on your knees, bare knees. I didn't have knee pads or anything. So it's super uncomfortable. You're there for an hour and a half and there's little oxygen up there. And of course, it's just crazy hot. But at the end of the day, I look back and go, absolutely, it was worth it. Right. So if you're willing to put in the effort, I think you'll definitely get a much better sound on ceiling, in ceiling, on wall than you'll get on the upfiring. Upfiring is just convenient, easy.
You should have put some subs up there while you were up.
I mean, I've got the space.
Some subs, maybe
I could do that.
I thought this was fun. Where is it? I like your profile photo mid-bass maestro. Spatial audio calibration toolkit made my setup strong, I guess.
Pumped. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that emoji would be.
Yeah, strong. It's fierce. Yeah,
Hard.
very cool.
I don't know.
What else? Firing. Did you see the update from Trinov?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
They had one a while back, but is it something new?
Let's see. How new is this?
They had one. It's probably been 3 or 4
March
weeks.
30th.
Yes, I knew about that one. Yeah, I thought you meant like this week.
Yeah, so I just saw this recently. So for any of you who have a Trinov, I guess it's coming out pretty soon. When is it? 3rd week of April for the Altitude 16 and 32. And so one of the things that it does is it does better, I guess, noise rejection. So it tries to find out what is noise and what is not. So you get a better calibration that way. This adaptive stuff seems kind of like the headroom expansion that we were talking about for Odyssey. I don't know if you've seen the live stream that I did with Eric Newman at Odyssey, but they have some new features in Odyssey. So I don't know if this is exactly the same. Reduced pre-ringing, but this is what I thought was interesting. It's like predefined target curves. It says until now there's only been one predefined target curve in altitude processors, which is a flat response curve. While this may be suitable for studio or near field environment, it is not for a home theater. This meant that alternative target curves would have to be created by the calibrator or imported from a previous curve. Okay, so that's cool. I've never played with a Trinov, so
yeah, me neither.
The fact that they could import, cool. That's a good thing, right? Especially for what I'm doing with the new app, I need to be able to import target curves. That's the whole point of the app. But I thought it was interesting that they didn't have predetermined curves. I guess they have like flat, light, moderate, strong, and musical, right? And so, yeah, flat for those who wish. Okay, light, bass increase. So I guess it's just different levels of bass and treble.
Just a little different curve on each one.
Musical, I'm kind of curious about that. A target curve balanced towards listening to music.
Yeah, like what is that? Yeah,
whatever that is. So cool. Any
I have
updates?
I have a feeling I'd want number 5. What do you think?
Number 5, strong. Yeah, you gotta have that emoji.
Want some bass in that bad boy.
So yeah, I think that's cool. My answer is custom target curve all day. Right? Don't use these predefined ones.
I think it's just a good start.
It could be it could be better than nothing, but it's so interesting that
for the guy that doesn't want to mess with it, I think having some presets would be beneficial for the average guy.
If you have a processor that's not that expensive, you should have somebody just do it.
True, that's true. You should have a professional calibrator, and they should be doing it.
It doesn't make sense to go in there like, let me just do auto. No.
Yeah.
Let somebody go and set it up properly. Hopefully they understand how to do good
measurements.
I haven't seen somebody do it yet, but hopefully the Magic Beans will take care of all of that. So if anybody has a Trinov, by the way, that has like the import, I'm kind of curious because I would like to support Trinov. Anyway, that's new. What else?
$30,000 is not cheap.
30 G's.
About 16 for the 16 and 30 something for the 32.
Man, I'm surprised that the default was flat. I guess it's almost like they're assuming, you should.
Somebody's gonna tweak it. Yeah.
Anybody who's heard flat at your main listening position in a normal sized room, they even say it here. Like it says, while this may be suitable for a studio or near field environment, it's not ideal for home theater. Like, definitely not ideal for home theater. It's not going to sound good. So it's kind of interesting that was their only predefined target.
Reverend Slim, I like your comment. He says, unless it does better money rejection, I'm out.
Money rejection.
Goodness.
Randall says, can you explain what you do with Magic Beans? Are you just reviewing room measurements and applying your own curves? It's proprietary, so I'm not gonna say exactly how we do everything, but
It's magical.
It's magic. It's just magic. It just works. What I'm hoping is once it's released, we'll get some people giving feedback, and the results will speak for themselves, right? You know, you don't want to reveal the magic trick. That takes away the fun. If it works,
That's all that matters.
works, if it sounds better, then good. If it sounds worse, then reviews will be negative. And why would you ever use that? You know, so it'll be pretty easy. Any news? Any news? I'm just gonna go into some questions here. Any news? Any news on the Magical Beans app? Truthfully, I have to have so many reviews that I need to just catch up on, and the plan is to just get them all out. You know, catch up, do all of them, and then I'm not gonna accept any more reviews from that point. It's all about just getting this released, right? So it's just tough. Not enough time in the day, right? So, but it's very close. It's very close. I'm super excited.
He's closer this month than he was last month.
Yes, working on it. It's the first thing.
Awesome,
let's put it this way: it's the first thing I do every morning. Is work on that. Right? I wake up, look at my phone, and then start working. So,
is it iOS or Android or both?
iOS, Android, Mac, PC.
Cool. Unfinished business asked.
Yes. Are you planning on doing a masterclass on multi-cue? Yes. So this is an old thing
like,
that I want to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was like, I had to think about that one.
So here's the thing. I've been promising this for a long time. And for anybody who's on the waiting list, they're like, what? This dude's never going to do it, right? But the thing is that this app that we're making is going to make a huge difference in this, right? It's going to be the tool that you're going to want to use. So I could have either just taught the class and it would have taken days to teach people how to do this, or develop a process that can be used in an app. And the masterclass would just be more about how to use the app properly, maybe some custom things, you know. So that's basically it. So it's not that I forgot about it. It's more like we repackaged it and made it something that everybody could afford. So today I talked to my friend who's a car audio guy. He's also a lawyer. And I said, like, hey, how much you guys charge? He's like, $1,000 an hour. All right, cool. So my services are not $1,000, but they're more than I would want to pay. Right? I wouldn't want to pay, you know, $200 or whatever it is for my services, because I know how to do it, first of all, right? But also, like, it's a lot of money, right? So the idea is I would rather this be available to more people, and it took a while to do that, but the idea is to make it available to more people rather than just select few people who can afford to pay me to do it. Right? So that's the idea. And I'll make more money that way, by the way, I think. Right? Just because not everybody can afford for me to do their stuff. So
sure,
it's a win-win. It's a win-win.
$300 per hertz.
$300 per hertz.
Like,
well,
yeah. So unfinished business. He asked that one.
I gotta make some money, man. I mean, I told him it'd be paid with ads.
Yeah, even better, right?
No ads. No, that's no ads. So yeah, it will be paid, and I'm hoping it's something that everybody will say totally worth it, right? And it's not going to be everybody, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people who have bought the spatial toolkit, they're like totally worth it, right? And then there's some people like, I don't know, but it's just a tool. So everybody's gonna find more or less use out of it. So yeah. Maybe a wipeout ad.
I saw that one.
Yeah. What other questions do we have? You see any questions that you want to see?
Yeah.
I think we got to most of them.
The ones near the end we saw.
Anything else here? Why is my seat making all kinds of squeaking noises? Will it make the wife appreciate the sound improvements? Yes, it should. It should. And I know you're joking, but truth is, right? when your speakers are not calibrated well, let's say if there's too much treble, everybody doesn't like it. You know, they're like, can you turn it down a little bit? Can you turn it down? Right? You hear that because it doesn't sound good. Like, just turn it down. Right? But when your speakers are well calibrated, the tonality is good. It's almost like what you'll find is you can turn it up and nobody complains. Right? That's how you know your system is sounding good. How about a Floyd Tool target curve setting on the app? I don't think he would like that. When I talked to him and I said, "Hey, what do you think about everybody using your Harman target?" He doesn't seem to like it. Yeah, he said that was never meant to be a target curve. You know, this is kind of summarizing what he said. Hopefully, I get it right. But he said that it was from testing the JBL M2, one of their speakers, in various rooms, and they took the average of those rooms, and that curve, what you see, is the average of those curves. But unless you have a JBL M2, that doesn't apply to you. Your room is not one of the rooms that they tested in. Another reason why you should maybe be, I don't know, a little bit careful when you just use that as a target curve. Yeah, I think I would like to do something like that, though. You know, something where we help other people determine what the target curve should be, because this is a Floyd Tool. The Harman target curve it's a good guess, right? If you had to guess between flat and Harman target, I'm choosing Harman target all day.
Yeah,
right. It's a better guess.
Optimal all the time.
Yeah, but it's not going to be perfect all the time. And I keep saying to people, you know, we care about all these things, placement and which components we use, what DAC is in there, what kind of amplifier is there, all these things that make some difference. But if you think about it, after you do all the level matching and time alignment, phase alignment, at the end of the day, what does the calibration ask you? What target curve do you want? Okay, well, that last step is going to make the biggest difference in how your speakers sound. Right? It's a whole, you're changing up the entire sound of the system. So isn't that important to get the right one? You know? So that's what we're trying to do. What is Tim saying over here?
I was looking at Reverend Slim.
Okay, hold on. Tim says, from an early Magic Beans curve that Joe did for my system, my wife appreciated the difference easily, and it made a big difference to me. Thank you, Tim. What is this? What did he say? A roommate finally asked, "Dude, do you have to recalibrate or play test tones every night?" I was like, "Well, I change things often just to learn more."
That's funny.
That's funny. Every night? Yes, you do. SAC made my bass lower than the resale value of my lower 90s. That's good. SAC made my setup sound so good. My girlfriend said I cut more holes in my ceiling. Oh,
Probably
you got the approval.
Could cut more. Yeah.
You got the approval to do some heights. That's good. Yeah, I think we're pretty good. I think we covered a lot of different topics today. Hopefully, Tim, did we give you enough to make our daily videos? If you guys don't watch our daily videos, you should make sure to subscribe, because Tim cuts these up and he makes
Tim
something
does the magic.
He does his magic. We need to re-record an after one for you, Michael. When we
That thing was terrible. Oh, I was like so sick. Oh my gosh, that was horrible.
To get a new one from you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anything else, Michael? Anything new? Updates you want to shout out real quick?
I've got a weird thing coming. Like, not weird, but it's different. Some motorized shades that are coming. I'll be here Thursday.
From who?
It is from a company called, I have to look back at my notes. Smart Wings, I think. It's kind of a interesting name. But yeah, they're sending me. How many
windows are you doing it on?
It's one big window. So in my living room, I've got a sliding glass door. There's 3 of them. And so I'm curious to see, because 3/4 of my audience is, or I guess about 2/3 of my audience don't have a dedicated theater room. So I'm like, okay, this is an issue that I have, like late at night, sun's coming down, and I mean, it's just blasting through that window. And I mean, we've got shades, but they're kind of wonky. So, or like vertical shades, but these are Alexa controlled. they're blackout curtains or blackout sunlight. These look pretty slick, man.
Do you know if they run on battery?
So they do have they're rechargeable,
Mm.
and they last so many hundreds of ups and downs. But they do have a what do you call that thing that you put on a solar panel that you can attach to it. It just has a cable. You put the solar panel on the window. So that would be ideal if that door doesn't move or if it's a window that doesn't move. But mine, it's not going to work because, you know, those glass have to move. So that wouldn't really work for that. So I'll just have to recharge them every once in a while. So curious to see like how long that'll take.
That's cool.
You know, how often. So but that'll be something totally different. But it's something that I think that would be beneficial to my audience because, like I said, 2/3 of them have living room setups. So if they've got big open, you know, a lot of ambient light, if you can control that light, then you'll have a better movie watching experience.
That makes sense. That makes sense. All right. All right. So what did they say? What are they saying over there?
He says, Alexa, black out the sun. Exactly. That's awesome.
It says Jeff Bezos will know when you're watching the movies.
Dude, I could care less what Jeff Bezos knows about me. He knows everything. I don't care.
Yeah, he can find us anywhere.
Yeah,
he can find you anywhere he wants, including the audio only version of the podcast at anchor.fm/daily HiFi. So
awesome.
Jeff Bezos, I think he listens on one of those podcasting apps. And yeah, you can also. So if you want to know what we're up to at any time while you're driving, you don't have to watch, just listen. So that's one way. And also, if you want to become a patron, you can do so at patreon.com/daily HiFi. And that supports what we're doing here. So we appreciate it. Also, we have an after show where you can jump in and kind of go into more details about your specific system. Maybe if you have questions for us, we can answer them directly. So it's just fun times. I'm usually there way too long. Other guys kind of cut out a little bit earlier because they're normal, like, you know, responsible people. You know, I am not. I'm crazy. So I'll see you guys over there. Michael, good to see you again.
Yeah,
I know you're a busy man.
It's all good, dude. I love it.
Good seeing you, man. All right, everybody. Take care.
I'm gonna grab a quick bite to eat, and then I'm gonna like a snack, and then I'll be over there.
Yeah. Okay. See you guys.